If you've been enjoying the Think Different series and the quick tips and the burnout short videos, if you find value from this meeting, I want you to share it out. I want you to share it out because change doesn't start and stop with me. Change happens because of all of you. So if you find a tool that is valuable to bring into your organization or share with a friend that was complaining over the weekend at a bonfire that you had, this is the trickle effect of change management. This is the support we can give one another in changing times. This world will continue to change. Stress has been here. Stress will always be. It's the tools that we use that we can respond with to adapt and create agile teams in such an environment. So let's dig into the workforce energy management tool of effective meetings. And when we dig into this in organizations, it gets really customized to where your organization wants to go, where you want your employees spending their time. And that all surrounds the value that you bring to your outer clients, your end users, your internal users. And in the workforce energy management model, this is under workflow. We're going to stop adding more in people's days. We're going to stop overpacking our days, and we're going to focus on productivity optimization. We're going to focus on where value is and work towards that. Now, when you look at productivity and where a lot of time is wasted, it's pretty uniform across all industries: hospitality, corporate culture, nonprofits, manufacturing, insurance, remote versus in-person, that the number one biggest time waster is meetings. Yep. Is that resonating with you? It sure does for me. We can spend half of our work week, if not more, in meetings in which we are not producing work, in which we are adding work to our to-do list, confusing us and bogging down our focus into all this multitasking in which we're not providing a lot of value. We're just doing more. So why are we doing more without more outcome? And a good focus item to start this momentum, to start to get energy back in your teams, is cleaning up your meetings. And the interesting thing is, when I started digging into this years ago, working with just trying to get organizations back to engagements and lowering their turnover, and then switching over to burnout prevention, it was across the board that workflow was a common factor that was causing overwhelm, that was distracting workers away from actual work. And interestingly enough, as I'm digging into this, Psychology Today states that 30 to 50% of meetings within organizations are unproductive. That means 30 to 50% of time that your workers are spending are unproductive just based on meetings. But we can make meetings effective, and we can erase some meetings as well. But let's just do a cost breakdown. So I come from HR, double-decade HR leader here. It's hard to get budgets. It's hard to get time to focus on these things. So let's put some numbers to it. Say that we have an average of $25, maybe up to $30, mix of people in a meeting room. And half of their week on average is spent in meetings, whether it's one-on-ones, department meetings, huddles, projects, catch-ups, even client meetings. So half of their week, so about 20 hours. Over a full year time frame per employee, on average, it turns out to be $15,000 of unproductive work off of their salary. So take their hourly rate, take the amount of hours that they're in meetings, times them up, and by the end of the year, you have about $15,000 of salary that you paid for that wasn't productive work on average. So take that over like a 50 people employee organization or 100 employee organization, we got some money wasted here. What's interestingly enough is, when you want focus around it, you talk about money. But when you talk about impact, you talk about people. The energy heightens naturally and organically when you can get people focused on work that they're more passionate about, focused around purposeful work instead of being bogged down by meetings. So that's the organic, natural growth you're going to have in your team, is that enhanced energy and the fun you have back in your days because you get rid of these bogged down type of functions. Now, there's a couple factors that go into this, so I'm going to split it up into two videos. The first half, let's just break down what type of meetings we maybe should be focused on, and then you can evaluate if you need the other meetings. There's 3 types of meetings that are really effective. One is kind of that pulse meeting. That's that clock pulse meeting that we want to have to make sure that we're all on track, all moving on the same path. These are one-on-one meetings. These are ones that you don't want to reschedule often, that you really do need a pulse, otherwise things get off track. These are department meetings. These are large project meetings in which you need those checkpoints to keep the group moving forward. So those are kind of your clock pulse meetings. I would say those are about bi-weekly or monthly, depending on how fast you're moving and how much check-ins you need outside of software and other communication avenues. The other meeting that you should have is a huddle or a mission meeting. So this means things are going wrong. Hey, we got a client complaint, or this project's off track, or our supplies did not show up and we cannot move forward in the process. These are urgent and need to be dealt with right now type of meetings on a mission. So yeah, there's going to be black holes that come out, and yeah, there's going to be variables that pop out that we need to fix within our process and our systems and our training. But right now we're on a mission. Let's get this solved, and then let's get into root causes. Those are mission ones. So those are based on need. Now, everyone needs to be in line. What is a critical mission and what is maybe just a distraction? And once you get aligned there, these are pretty easy to figure out. Address the issue. It's a conflict, specific agenda, and you move on. These are normally less than 8 people, very focused around the solution, client, and employees involved. Now, there's larger meetings, which are your strategic initiatives. These are called sprint meetings. So every 90 days in traction, they call them big rock meetings, where the organization is going, like, let's move the big boulder forward. How do we do that? Let's do big check-ins on our initiatives. In different project management software, they call it different names. So these are your sprint meetings. These are, we're trying to hit a mark, and we're doing all these little duties in tasks and functions up until the sprint mark, where we either pass the baton to someone else or we create another sprint and we keep going forward. So these are usually quarterly. They're either done by whole staff meetings, strategic teams or leadership teams, or committees. So this could even be like safety committee meetings, DEI committee meetings. Again, they can meet more frequently, but understand the value of meeting more frequently or less frequently. If it's causing dysfunction either way, then it's probably time to adjust the frequency of it. So this is forward-moving, big boulder type of projects, sprint meetings. Now, where I think people get hung up is on the facilitation of this, because really anyone can call a meeting and anyone can distract away from the agenda. So in this video, we're going to go over what you can do as a facilitator to make sure that you stay on track for what it was intended for. So if you have a clock pulse meeting, a department meeting, a one-on-one meeting, are you speaking about the things specific to that clock pulse type meeting? Or are you getting into strategic initiatives? Are you getting into other type of black holes that are not part of this meeting? In the next video, we're going to go through standard agendas that you can use to keep on time, keep focus, and purpose. I'm also going to give you a preview of what goes into the meeting makeover product that I offer, in which I audit an organization meeting that's maybe dysfunctional or unproductive, and I give them a score so they can actually focus it more to productivity and optimization. And this is done by sending me a recorded video. I audit it, send the feedback, and then meet with the team on some opportunities we can do to enhance this meeting back to productivity. But for this specific video, let's stay with productivity. Another part where we lose productivity is not just in classification of meetings and who can host them, what is the focus of this meeting, but also who's facilitating it. Who's in control of the time? Who's in control of those sidetrack conversations that kind of get us down, chasing a rabbit, down the black hole? Now we're in a whole other meeting and everyone's sitting there disengaged and wishing they weren't here. That is training your facilitators. Anyone who does meetings often, your leaders that are hosting one-on-ones, should understand how to facilitate a meeting. This will keep it on track, constructive, and still honor people's opinions and discussion, but we're here for a purpose. And it stays focused. That's the meetings that you remember, where we got things done, people own things, we leave, we have the next steps and follow up. Momentum, momentum, momentum. Momentum equals energy. So we can do progress without adding more. It's called focus. Are we keeping discussions on time? Is there even a time on the agenda, or is the agenda, hey, this is a safety committee meeting, we're going to review incidents from the last month? Okay, but how much time are we putting for each section of that so we don't just go down to solutions without maybe keeping time for some important discussion factors or training that the team needs or other things that might be going on within the organization. So keep discussions on time. Rerouting to productive discussions. When people get emotionally charged, when people get passionate about talking about a subject, or maybe they're really aggravated about a subject, they can go down these squirrely holes in which it's hard to get everyone back on track. And it's affecting the group. And this is where that death by meeting mentality starts to happen. So those emotional drainer type of conversations, you need to guide effectively, which means you honor what they're saying and then you get back on track. That's why having standard agendas and time associated with each part of that agenda is important, specific to those clock pulse bi-weekly meetings, specific to those mission-centric huddle type meetings, specific to the strategic initiative, because you can use that tool and people aren't as defensive. Hey, I see we're over on time on this subject. If we have time at the end, let's circle back, but otherwise let's make sure that we continue that discussion outside of this meeting. Back on agenda. That's how you reroute. Managing emotional outbursts. And this is interesting because on one hand, you don't want people having emotional outbursts, but if you're watching behavior, you know what's important to them. Because they're having an outburst, it's very important to them. You're hitting those core values. So understanding people's core values going into it, you can navigate in a more delicate manner that doesn't offend someone so that they have an emotional outburst, or honor their emotional outbursts and say, hey, how can we constructively move forward on that? Again, rerouting the conversation back to the agenda. And then closing the discussion and follow up. There's a lot of meetings that I left and we got information, but like who owns what? What are the due dates? Where do we need extra support? And then you meet the next week or 2 weeks from then. And we just talk about the same things over and over and over again. Talk about an energy drainer. What a waste of time. We could be doing things, moving them forward, moving them forward, moving them forward. As you've heard me speak before on these videos, part of burnout prevention is showing progress. This world is changing. Can we keep up? Yeah, we can, but we have to take some things back in our control, such as meetings. So when I work with programs, I will give tools to the organizations on how to start facilitating these conversations in meetings, because guess what? It drags out to other conversations. So say I'm having a one-on-one meeting. I know how to facilitate that. I know how to address healthy conflict and move it forward. Say I have a conflict with me and a coworker. I'm not going to hide and isolate myself, letting it become a mind monster in my head. No, I have the tools to address the conflict. By categorizing our meetings into what is a huddle, what is a clock pulse meeting, like at the department's one-on-ones, what are strategic or sprint meetings, we can start to navigate what do agendas look like, how much time do we want to put into our workforce dedicated to these meetings. And then training your facilitators will keep in line with the agendas and the meeting purposes so you can gain productivity without adding more.